Hey guys, what's going on? My name's Ryan. I play chess and put my videos online. Today I've got two very interesting and intense games that I played against the same guy one good night. He's a 1541 player, so he's very solid in his own right, and I just wanted to show you these games, and I hope that you can learn a little bit from each of these examples. So he started out with e4, did e6, typical French advanced variation. My last video talked all about the lines from the French, but so you know that I challenged the center here. He defends, bring my knight here. Now this is the first, this is another main line that I'd like to talk about, is he develops this bishop and puts a double attack threat on this pawn. But the simple response from black here is to threaten this b2 pawn, which is very important. He hasn't developed his knight yet, and so I'm threatening taking this rook and later on this pawn here. What it also does is it adds an attacker to this d4 pawn right here. So this is the typical line that I like to get into. He defends this pawn in this attack here by bringing his pawn right to that position. When that happens, I like to take right here, and then usually, you know, they'll take back the pawn or bishop. And I guess I was feeling aggressive, and so I wanted to go ahead and check right away. Now that there's no longer this pawn defending this knight, he either moves his knight here or trades queens. He decided to trade off queens, and I thought it was best in this position just to go ahead and do that. Now, what's interesting about this game is that the queens are off the board. It's the second piece to come off the board, and so it's going to be a very tactical game now, and we can automatically assume that there's not going to be any checkmating threats right away. And so I'm not immediately concerned about castling. I just want to develop and get all my pieces to solid squares. I developed my bishop right here. This is a common thing in the French defense, is just taking away this bishop's right to pin my knight right now. He brings the knight out, develops the knight, I pin his knight. He develops again, I develop, he castles, and I bring my knight right here. Now this might be my first mistake because it allows him to take and then ruin my pawn structure, but like I said, I just want to keep up with the attack on this d4 pawn. That's always my strategy, but it does allow him to form a nice pawn chain here in the center, and from then on it's basically a battle for me to defend and for him to attack. And I think it's interesting how each of us goes about doing that, and how each of us responds to each other's moves. So he takes, I take back obviously, and he puts pressure on this knight. This is a nice open file for him, and I would always recommend putting your rooks on open files when you can. I go ahead and castle. He kicks my bishop. I decide to just take there. Takes back with the bishop. And right now I can immediately tell that I'm going to be defending much of the game. I stop any advance from this knight as well as this bishop. He pushes that pawn, and he's starting to gain quite a bit of space on me, which I don't like. I move my rook right here because I believe that as soon as I move my knight, because I believe that he's going to push this pawn again and I'm going to have to move my knight, I'm thinking that what he's going to end up doing is bringing his rook down here and just attacking basically everything in my position. So I want to be able to defend my bishop with this rook here. So that's why I go right here. He gains more space on the king side, and I move my knight right here, defending both these pawns and planning on rerouting him to somewhere over on the king side. Another reason he gains more space, I try to compromise that and develop this bishop out of harm's way. This would be a nice square for my bishop. I'd bring my pawn right here, and we'd be solid along this diagonal. This is a pretty diagonal for the bishop to be on. He decides to just continue gaining space, and right now I'm feeling very cramped on my own side, and right now the computers are ranking us as basically exactly equal because I'm defending well and he's attacking well. I bring my knight right here, and what this allows me to do is then drop him back here and then go here and attack this pawn. That's the only, he's gained so much space at this point that that's the only useful position for my knight. And what I tell you, he brought his rook down here to attack my bishop and attack basically everything. I reroute my knight to defend this guy. He gains more space. I protect this pawn in case I ever want to move this rook eventually, which will happen in the near future. And you can see right here that both of our bishops are basically useless. He's got nothing on the dark squares, and I've got nothing on the light squares. So both bishops are bad bishops at this point. He connects rooks, and this is starting to look like a very scary position right now. The computers rank him at a +1 advantage, even though material is completely equal. But the next set of moves go along with my video on how to attack smart and defend smart. So right now, everything is defended barely. Nothing is loose except for this pawn right here. So I defend my bishop a second time and plan start to set in motion moving my knight right here. In this move, he makes a mistake. I think he was maybe had plans of pushing this pawn and coming in here on the king side more. But this is a mistake right here simply because this was the only protector of his main central pawn chain. So I come in here, threaten the rook. The rook cannot move down. His only move was right here. He can't move here, here, or here. So he's forced to go all the way back up. Basically, it's very, I turn a defensive position into an attacking position really quick. So he moves there, and now that this knight is no longer defending this pawn, I take this pawn, and he makes the first mistake of the game, which is attacking my knight right away. I'm able to come over here with this nice little fork, and he ended up resigning. So I like this game simply because it's attacking and defensive all at the same time. That's why you should always try to attack smart. At this point, the computers are ranking me at a +3 material advantage. This next game I like quite a bit because it allows me to show off my new response to the Sicilian, and that is with the Grand Prix attack. I'll be doing a video in the future here explaining the lines in the Grand Prix attack, but it starts off with e4. He goes with the typical Sicilian, and this is the first change of me bringing this knight to this square right here. It prevents him from pushing this pawn and attacking my center, and it just has a few general uses. So he develops his pawn right here, and this is gaining a lot of space on the king side right now. This is why I like the Grand Prix attack, is while he has a lot of his pieces over here on the queen side, I start to attack his king side. He strikes back at the center with this pawn, and I never like when they, well, I guess I do like when they do this, but as a player I don't think it's a very sound move on his behalf. If I were to take right here, he would be, he would have two kind of weak pawns, and if I don't take, which I don't, he has a weak back rank pawn right here, which is defending both of these pawn chains. So it's a vulnerable move, and it also allows me to occupy a hole in his position with this d5. I push this pawn, and he brings his knight out. I bring my knight out. He defends anything from this side with my bishop and my knight, and I gain some space over here with this a4 push. It was saying that my best move was d3 in this position, but I want to develop my bishop to this square right here, and what he can do is just kick it. And then I would move back here, and then, he would probably move his pawn right here, and my bishop would be trapped. So I wanted an opening for my bishop to go to in case that ended up happening. He brings his queen right here, which is a very aggressive move. Right here in the opening, I just bring my bishop out. He develops that bishop, putting a double attack on this. What he'd like right now is for me to move my knight, and then he would attack my rook. But what this does now is, since he moved his queen, and his bishops are locked in here, my pawn is defending anything from this bishop. I'm going to attack this f7 pawn, which is the most vulnerable pawn in the game for both sides, as you know. It's my bishop, and I lay a check on him right away. He moves his king away, and I castle. He kicks my knight, and I bring it right here because I have a nice little outpost square now for this bishop. He takes, and this is a beautiful, nice active bishop right here. He kicks my knight, and this allows him to come in here with this knight and win this pawn. But unfortunately, it sets up a large attack on his king side. Now, I decide to kick the knight right away, which it said wasn't my best move. My best move was bringing the queen right here, but I end up going there anyways a couple moves later, so I think I'm fine on that front. And right now I've got a strong attack on his king. He's very vulnerable, he doesn't have his pieces very developed, and he's now able to take my bishop, which is not the end of the world. I've got a strong pawn right here. He defends my queen coming in here to this very scary position right here on f7. I come in here with a check on the king, which I like a whole lot. It forces him to move way over into the corner, and he cannot recapture, or else he'd lose his rook. So I'm able to give him a check right here, and he develops his bishop. And now at this point I had a decision whether I wanted to hold on to the knight or the bishop. It was a tough choice, but I ended up going with the knight because he can only recapture with this rook here, and then I have a pin for a couple moves on this rook. So I don't take this right away. Instead, I develop my rook. He defends the rook, and I decide to just go ahead and take it. He takes back. I give him a check here, and then I repin it, thinking that taking right here is not in his best interest. He cannot take my pawn because he's pinned, but taking here is not his best move because it would allow me to push this pawn and eventually queen it. Now that's going to be a common theme in the next couple moves here, but it gets very tense, is all I'm going to say. So he defends this rook, and I connect my rooks. He pushes this pawn. I decide to take it, and I bring my queen right here to this very important position. I'm threatening taking this, and he comes in with a check. Move my king out of the way. He gets his knight out of danger. And what I should have done here is come up here with the rook and check right here, get my rook involved with the tempo. But instead, I check with the queen and lose any potential developing tempo with this rook. But it's not the end of the world because I do it the next move, but it would be nice to just get both those pieces in there right away. So I come in here with the rook, attacking this knight twice. He takes this pawn, which set up a very interesting position, one which I had to count in order to figure it out. He's threatening queening right now. And I'm threatening queening as well. Both of our pawns are 2 away, and I decide to push. So I was thinking, 3, 4, 5 moves out, and he goes ahead and takes, and we're both 1 square away from queening. If he's to queen, I'm going to lose the game. But what I do is I take with the rook, takes back with the queen, I get a queen, and from then on, it's basically game over. He moves here. I've got to check, stop that queen threat. He pushes this pawn. I defend this pawn right here, and I have mate. Anyways, I thought that was an interesting game simply because it was a very tense game from the get-go. He knew that I had something coming, and he threatened checkmate a bunch of times here on my king. And that's checkmate. He's got no squares here or here. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you like my games, and I wish you the best of luck in your chess. Thank you. Bye. What's up, guys? Thanks again for watching my video here today. I really appreciate it. And if you have any questions about any specific moves or anything about the game, please leave them below. I'd love to answer those. And last but not least, if you got anything out of this video at all, or you just simply enjoyed it, I would highly encourage you to subscribe. It helps me out a lot, and that way you can, get in touch with any future videos that I put out. Anyways, have a good rest of your day, and good luck in your chess.